People's Assembly members' debates focus on the services and economic situation and the combination of efforts to protect Syria. Iran reiterates the need of dialogue to solve the crisis in Syria. Hundreds of Palestinian prisoners start a hunger strike in solidarity with their other fellow prisoners in Israeli occupation jails. Good afternoon, I am Irado Krikorian from the News Center in Damascus. The People's Assembly resumed its sessions today, headed by Assembly Speaker Muhammad Jihad al-Laham in the presence of the members of the government. The Assembly listened to the interventions of its members that focused on the government's measures to overcome the difficulties that resulted from the crisis and the ways and means to improve the livelihood situation of citizens and provide basic commodities. The People's Assembly members affirmed that national action is everybody's responsibility and requires cooperation among all sides and authorities. They called on the government members to present creative thoughts and clear visions for the future. The Assembly members also affirmed that earnest dialogue should start from the smallest administrative unit in a manner that excludes no one. They pointed out that any national dialogue conference should include all political factions, including the People's Assembly members, who represent the people as a whole. Iranian Vice President Mohammad Rida Rahimi has condemned some countries' continued support of terrorism in Syria, holding them responsible for the Syrian people's bloodshed. During his meeting with the Syrian ambassador to Tehran, Adnan Mahmoud, Rahimi stressed Iran's stand on Syria's side and its intention to offer all forms of support to it in the face of the enemy's schemes. He added that terrorists and their supporters would be defeated and the economic pressures would fail as the two countries enjoy the strongest willpower in enhancing the ingredients of steadfastness to confront the unjust economic blockade. Rahimi reiterated his country's full rejection of any form of foreign intervention in Syria's affairs and of the policy of dictates and pressures practiced by Western powers against Syria and the region. On his part, Ambassador Mahmoud expressed thanks and gratitude for Iran's stand in support of Syria, referring to the need of doubling efforts in order to invest all available potentials in both countries to contain the repercussions of the economic war which threatens citizens' livelihood. Iran has affirmed the need of national dialogue to solve the crisis in Syria, expressing readiness to help bring about such dialogue between the government and the opposition. The Iranian stand has been voiced by Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Mehman Parast, who described national dialogue as positive and constructive. He stressed the need for the USA and Western countries to abandon the policy of threats and officially recognize Iran's rights to the peaceful use of nuclear technology. The Iranian spokesman said, "Logic should govern the negotiations between Iran and the 5+1 group." He added that the upcoming meeting of the group presents a good opportunity to discuss differences between the two sides. He pointed out that American interventions in internal affairs and the U.S. constant animosity towards the Iranian people and its selective dealing in the region are proofs of Washington's bad intentions. The Iranian spokesman said Iran is to the forefront of the countries that look forward to comprehensive disarmament of weapons of mass destruction, as it had already proposed this particularly in the Middle East, including the Zionist entity. Russian Ministry of Defense took a decision to keep the warships in the Mediterranean in light of the results of the naval exercises which were conducted last month. A source in the Russian Ministry of Defense said guard ship Smith-Levy, along with a number of supply ships, are already in the Mediterranean, to be followed after a short time by large landing ships such as Kaliningrad and Alexander Shobalin from the Batlik fleet, which have also sailed from Novorossiysk. In addition to that, the large landing ships Saratov and Azov from the Black Sea fleet will arrive into the region at the end of the current month. The source added that the number of the ships in the region and their type will be determined according to the development of the situation in the future. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Gennady Gatilov said that Russia rejects endeavors to refer the crisis in Syria to the International Criminal Court. Meanwhile, Russian Minister of Emergency said that 2 planes carrying humanitarian aid to Syria arrived at Lattakia airport today. Spokesperson for the Russian Emergency Ministry, Irina Rossios, confirmed that the 2 Russian emergency planes, L-76 and L-62, took off today from Ramenskoye airport in Moscow, heading towards Lattakia airport. The first plane was carrying electric equipment, while more than 11 tons of food items were on board of the second one. Our army units have confiscated 2 cars loaded with weapons and ammunition and eliminated a number of terrorists who had been smuggling weapons and committing acts of kidnapping and vandalism in Shamsin in Homs suburbs. A military source said the weapons confiscated included anti-armor missiles, mortar shells, artillery shots, RPGs shells and a BKT machine gun. The source added that all the group's members were killed or wounded. Meanwhile, our army units continue to pursue terrorists in eastern Al-Buwaida, Al-Amiriya, Tal al-Ghar and Ain Hussein, destroying their hideouts. Moreover, an army unit and borders guards have thwarted an attempt by a terrorist group to infiltrate from Lebanese territories at Idlin site in Tal Kalakh suburbs, killing and wounding a number of its members. In Idlib suburbs, a number of terrorists were killed and wounded during clashes that erupted last night over differences in sharing materials they had stolen from citizens' properties and services institutions in the village of Kilia in Abu Dhuhur. The fighting continued for more than 2 hours, during which the terrorists used machine guns and bombs. 3 leaders of the terrorist groups were killed. On the other hand, an army unit eliminated terrorist gatherings in Kafarhaya, Al-Shaghr, Al-Shnan in Idlib suburbs, destroying 6 vehicles equipped with machine guns. Another army unit also killed several terrorists in Mar'an in Idlib suburbs. In occupied Palestine, more than 800 Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons have started a hunger strike in solidarity with their fellow prisoners who have been on a hunger strike for several months. The prisoners' hunger strike came to protest the Israeli policy of health carelessness and the solitary confinement of the Palestinian prisoners. Coincided with the strike, several public activities and protest marches were held in different parts of occupied Palestine to show solidarity with the Palestinian prisoners. In Egypt, a sit-in continued in Port Said and several other cities for the 3rd consecutive day. Egyptian security forces stormed at Tahrir Square in an attempt to force the protesters to depart, while the demonstrators started pelting them with stones. Egyptian sources said the security forces were able to remove the barricades which were erected by the protesters at the entrances of Tahrir Square before the police retreated again in case of renewed clashes with the demonstrators. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more news about Syria and the region, and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam after a short break.